Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird, and welcome to Wicca 101. This week's lesson is going to focus on magical symbols. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be about every single magical symbol that's out there, so consider this a kind of introduction. Symbols are a kind of shorthand. They can be very simple designs. Sometimes they're a little bit more complex, but usually they're fairly straightforward. But these simple designs, they can represent deep and complex ideas. And we've inherited a host of symbols in witchcraft, and when we use them, we can certainly save space in our grimoire, but it also can become a kind of second language for us. And most importantly of all, when we learn about symbols and their meanings, it trains our brains to look beneath the surface when we see an image. We're not just asking ourselves to identify what it is, we're asking ourselves, what does it mean? And what things mean, and the application thereof, that is 90% of magic, witchcraft, and spirituality. Now, no one is going to throw you out of Wicca or any form of witchcraft or paganism if you choose not to actually use symbols. But it is to your benefit to be, reasonably familiar with some of the more commonplace symbols so you can recognize them when you see them and also have a sense of what they signify. So let us begin with probably the most common and one of the most recognizable, the pentacle. Now, the pentacle is an upright five-pointed star encompassed by a circle. You see the top point. We have spirit, and then we have water, fire, earth, air. Now, the circle, you'll notice, is touching all the points of the star, and this represents that the elements are just parts of a greater whole. Now, what that whole represents, it could be an individual or it could be the entire universe. It really depends upon the context. Now, you can also invoke and banish elements depending on where you start when you draw the pentacle. And if you're interested, a chart on that will be posted on the Study Hall channel at Blackbird's Brew on our Discord server, as well as other charts of common magical symbols. Next, we have another one that is widely used, which is the triple goddess symbol. Now, this represents the triple moon, and it is, as I said, one of the most common symbols for the goddess in Wicca. You see, we have it is a little bit hard when I'm doing everything backwards, but we have a waxing moon, a full moon, and a waning moon, and they're all in this line, and these represent the three main faces of the goddess, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Now, we're not going to be leaving out the god because we never do on this channel. And this is one of the most basic symbols for the god. As you see a circle, and we've got curved horns on the top. Now, the horns represent his strong connection with the wild and the animal kingdom in general. Now, we come to the elements. There are a variety of different symbols meant to represent the elements, and I'm just presenting one option of many. But these are, I do tend to run into these more frequently than some of their counterparts. Now, what we have for spirit is a wheel with 8 spokes, and then for air, we have an upright triangle with a line through it. For earth, we have an inverted triangle with a line through it. Then for fire, an upright triangle, and for water, an inverted triangle. Now, the sabbats also have symbols, and these you don't see as often, but it does come up from time to time, so I thought I'd include it. And you'll see we start with Yule. Okay, there we are. Now, Yule, you see we have what looks like a table, and then you see this little upside-down pyramid of dots, and they're in the shape of a pyramid upside down, and also when I think of that, I think that we're looking through a window through the snow falling down. I can talk. I'm okay. I've had caffeine. Next, we have Imbolc. You see this horizontal line, the vertical in the center, and then the 2 diagonals. That represents, the beginning rays of the sun starting to come back into the world in a noticeable way, which of course is what Imbolc is all about. It is about that dream of spring. Then we have Ostara, which is the little circle with what looks like antennae coming out. This makes me think of, insects, obviously. And of course, around this time of year, you do start seeing some of them carefully creeping out of their winter hideaways. Next, we have Beltane. And the Beltane one, I think, is pretty awesome. puts me in mind of a tree because of, it goes up and then you have these branches, but it also represents to me the maypole, and the branches could also represent the ribbons that would be around the maypole. Next, we have Letha, which is this interesting kind of almost like a sun up here, the sun on either side, but it's about that strength of the solar energy at this time of year. Now, after that, we have Lunasa. And as you can see, it's the sun creeping up over the horizon with a line going down the middle of it. And then for Mabon, it looks like an uppercase M with a T down at the bottom of it. And then for Samhain, we've got one that's a bit more complex than the others. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Oh, do cooperate. Okay, there. As you can see, we have two intersecting ovals in the center, and then you have a square, and then at each corner of the square, we have those little circles. So again, you don't see those as often, but if you run across them, at least you'll have some frame of reference. And again, there'll be a chart of this in the study hall. Now, common symbols that might be useful to us in our grimoires. We begin with the sunrise and the sunset, fairly straightforward. You have the line of the horizon, and of course when the sun is rising, the sun is over that horizon, and when the sun is setting, it is underneath of it. Next, we have the quarters, which can also represent the four elements, this circle with the cross inside of it. Then we have a lunar spiral, which is going counterclockwise. Next, we have the chalice, which looks like a chalice. Fairly easy there. Same with the athame, just looks like a little blade, and the wand, of course, looks like a wand. And the moonrise and the moonset are very similar to our solar counterparts. You just have the horizon line, and then the moon going the direction it's going. Then from there, we have the cosmic luminescate, which is also the infinity symbol. Underneath that, we have the cauldron. Then we have the solar cross, which looks kind of like a bullseye target to me. And then we have a symbol for bread, because, of course, bread is also one of the commonplace offerings and can represent the cakes and ale ceremonies. Next, we have the bowling, just kind of like a miniature little scythe. Then we have the besom in the shape of a broom for obvious reasons. And then we have incense, a little bowl with the wafting of the scent coming off of it. Now, also in the for the grimoire symbols, we have an arrow going that direction for Jessel. I know it has a D, but I've been reliably informed it's pronounced Jessel, not Docel. Don't ask me why. It's just what I've read. And then underneath that, we have the symbol for Widdershins, which is going counterclockwise. And then from there, we have a balefire, represented by darkened flames. Then we have the symbol for herbs, which will be perennially useful. And then we have representations of the major moon phases. We have, the waxing crescent, the waxing gibbous, the full moon, the waning gibbous, and then the waning crescent. You'll frequently come across zodiac signs, just to give you an idea of what they look like. Aries has that uppy down with the little antlers for the ram. Then we have Taurus, the circle with the cow horns, because it's Taurus the bull. Gemini with the twins, you have the parallel lines and then the little swoopies on either end. Then with Cancer representing the cardinal water sign, you see this little whirlpool of what's going to represent water for obvious reasons. Then we have Leo, and this little swirly represents the tail of the lion. Then Virgo, you have an M with a swoopy that connects up the end together, and it makes me think of a maiden crossing her legs in a modest way, because of course Virgo refers to the virgin or the maiden. Then we have Libra, which are the scales represented by this. We have Scorpio, another M-looking shape with a point at the end. Then we have Sagittarius, the arrow, because Sagittarian is also the archer in the zodiac. Then we have Capricorn, which is tied to goats. I don't know why this is their symbol. Well, I know why. It resembles what the star constellation looks like, but you don't immediately think of it. But Capricorn has the V and the little side swoopies. Aquarius has little waves of air. And then Pisces, for the fish, we have little swoopies, line going in between them. Next, we have planetary symbols, which you will also encounter if you study much astrology. We have a circle with a dot in the center for the sun. Next, we have the moon in a crescent shape. Then we have Mercury, the circle with the little antlers and then the plus sign beneath. Then we have Venus, which is the traditional sign with the circle with the plus underneath. Mars, the circle with the arrow. And then we have Jupiter, which looks like someone got a little fancy when they made their 4. And then we have Saturn, which to my eyes looks a bit like kind of a different looking H. Then we have the symbol for Uranus. We have this little O, and then we have the 3 lines and going across. Something about it actually reminds me of a TIE fighter. That's how I remember it. Then we have the symbol for Neptune, which is a trident. And then we have Pluto, which is a little sun held under that semicircle with a plus underneath. And then we have Chiron, which looks like a K that someone put an O at the bottom of. Now also what you will see from time to time, and these can be used as symbols in your grimoire, but they can also be used for divinatory purposes, are witches' runes. And just going very briefly into these. First we have the sun, which looks like that, and it represents new beginnings, healing, and vitality. For the moon, that represents long-term change coming, secrets, imagination. Then we have, flight, which you see kind of little swoopies. That represents movement, communication, and travel. Next we have rings, which is about connections, a union that creates new things. And then we have the 3 swoopies indicating romance, love, soulmates, and harmony. This is one of the symbols for woman that you'll see. And then next, that'll be the symbol for man and the witch's runes. Next, we have harvest, which looks like a little plant bowl, little plants coming up. Of course, that represents blessings, rewards, and abundance. Then we have a crossroads with arrows going in all way. That represents major life decisions, perhaps a fear of moving forward and the unknown. See, then we have the star, like so, representing freedom, inspiration, and striving for what you want. Next to it, we have waves, which represents a connection with the spiritual world, things being beyond your control, and also you trying to be in the flow or being overwhelmed by the flow. Next, we have the scythe, representing sudden changes or endings, final decisions, even danger. And then we have the eye, which represents lifting the veil, being focused or witnessing something, and seeing the truth. A little bit later down the road, we'll do a video about the witches' runes and how to use them. They're not the most common form of divination, but it is something that it's worthwhile being acquainted with. Next, we have miscellaneous symbols, and this will be our last batch. We have blessings, which is a little moon with little droplets behind. I've actually seen some decorations with this general design. I don't know if someone intended it to be a symbol of blessings, but certainly you could use it as a charm for that. Then we have the symbol for causing sleep, a Z, suitable. And then we have travel, which is another crossroads with darkened arrows. Then we have a teardrop representing purification. See, next we have the circle with the 4 ovals going out from it representing protection. And then next to it we have Bane. There we go. We see the X with the circle above. This would also be very good for labeling any mixtures and any potions you make that are not intended to be ingested. Make sure you label those very, very quickly. You don't want a household accident, and you don't want to grab the wrong thing by mistake. Next, we have the symbol for, there we go, peace, which is just 3 little circles stacked like so. Next to it is the symbol for healing. You know, long oval, 2 little circles, line going down the middle. And then we have the symbol for marriage, which is two hearts joined and then looped together. Then we have the symbol for rebirth, which is a clockwise spiral, and the next to it is a spiral for spirituality, which is a counterclockwise spiral. Right here is the symbol for fertility, which is a little egg, and then a circle within that egg. This is the symbol for money, the line, and the little swoopies right there. I also think that of course, in the United States, we would use the dollar sign to also represent money. Whatever symbol is used for the currency of the nation in which you lived, I think that would be completely reasonable to include. See, and then next we have symbol for friendship, which is two little hearts. And from there we have this little swoopy deal representing the season of summer. Then we have the M with the T of the cross representing autumn. Then we have winter, which is the table with the upside down pyramid of snow again. And then, of course, we have spring, which is the little circle with the little bug eye. Now, I know this is kind of dry stuff, just at the surface of it, but it is very useful. It is a very good way to write things down very quickly in our grimoires, but it also can be a basis for pagan crafts and artwork. I have seen these symbols used in a variety of things. You look on Pinterest, look up pagan arts and crafts, and you will probably see some of the symbols we've looked at today. But more than that, this kind of symbolism, it represents the spiritual culture of magical practitioners. This is kind of our common language, however different our various traditions and practices might be. And honestly, without a basic knowledge of common symbolism, we are depriving ourselves of being fully conversant in modern magical languages, because at some point, all of us run into a little bit of trouble. We need to communicate our difficulties to other practitioners who might have more experience or who are better at something in a particular area. And of course, if they're looking at our notes, well, then, we need to be using common language so that we can understand what all those notes mean. So, now for homework for those bold enough to accept it for today through the 19th. The first one is list 5 symbols that you consider representing the culture in which you live, and then journal about why you chose those symbols, what they mean, and how you personally feel about them. The second is, at this point of your journey, is there a symbol that's important to you on the spiritual level? Now, if so, then what symbol or symbols resonate with you? Journal about why. And if there isn't something that's resonating with you, just talk about that. The main thing throughout this entire classroom experience is to be honest with yourself and to make an educated decision about whether or not the practice of magic, be it Wicca, another form of witchcraft, or even more secular practical magic traditions, if this is something that's really for you. So this is an opportunity for you to just check in with yourself. And then the third for this and last assignment for this week is what symbolizes you. Choose 5 things. They could be images or shapes, colors, animals, stones, plants, whatever it is that appeals to you that you feel represents something very fundamental to your very nature. And then journal about why you think these things are good representations of you. So that's what we've got for this week. Pretty straightforward lesson, not a whole lot to philosophize on this. But certainly when we meet for our discussion tomorrow, we can talk about, not so much about what these symbols mean to us, because there isn't anything particularly controversial about these symbols. There's a variety of symbols that represent similar ideas, but these are some of the more commonplace ones, and as far as I know, no one's really found anything particularly to dispute about. So it's about how we can use them, what significance they might have, and what it means to have some symbolism that so strongly represents our spiritual path. So it'll get a lot more personal. We'll get into symbols that our deities have communicated to us that they, want on their altars or that are going to be important to us. So we'll see how deep beneath the surface, because I think, it's one thing to learn about these things, and it's quite another to hear people talk about how they've applied certain ideas. And that's what we try to do in the workshop chats. How do we apply what we've learned? How has this idea affected us? So if you want to join in, that's going to be happening Sunday afternoon. Let's see, November 14th. Yes. It'll be at on our Discord server at Blackbird's Brew. It'll be at 3 p.m. Central Time. It'll be in the Voice Workshop chat. So please join us there if you would care to. And of course, subscribe to this channel, like this video, leave me a comment. I will see you later.